YouTube, what's up? It's your boy D. I'm back with another video. I had some time today and I wanted to converse with y'all. I wanted to talk to y'all. I wanted to give y'all a little bit of sauce. So if you find value in my content, please like and subscribe. So it helps the algorithm get out to more people. I can share my stories, share my insight, possibly share my advice with you guys that are interested in the topic that we're going to discuss today. I've already gotten feedback from some people that have been watching my channel. So thank you for those who watch my channel. I really appreciate it. Please leave a comment. Please leave a like. If you leave a comment, especially if it's positive, I'm going to get back to you. And the fastest way I possibly can. I like to converse with people. So please leave a comment. If you have a question about something, ask it. If it's a real important question that I think that can help other people and I know the answer to, I might make a video on it, right? So ask your questions away. I've done so many different things in my short period of life span that God has given me, that I've done so many different entrepreneur ventures, career ventures. So there's some things on here or things that I've done that I haven't talked about. I may or may not talk about on this channel, or I may start another channel and talk about my other business entrepreneurship ideas or things I've invested in. Probably another channel I'll do it on. This is more career based, so I'll probably do another channel. But if you have any questions about business, shoot me a message or shoot a comment. I may make a video about it. This channel is primarily based on my story from leaving the cult of JWs to law enforcement and to corrections. So that's why I try to stay on those lines. But I know it's a lot of different stuff. Even within those parameters, there's a lot of different stuff going on there. But I try to keep it on those lines when it comes to like the military and it comes to law enforcement. A lot of people want to know about those things, and also for those people that were in that cult or in a religion that was a cult and they're switching from, or I shouldn't say switching, but leaving that and healing from that, hearing my testimony may help them. So that's what I primarily keep on this channel. And later down the line, I might open up another channel and talk about my entrepreneur ventures and show you guys pictures of my Airbnbs and videos of the Airbnbs I've had. My other business, I might shoot something up about that or say something up about that on that channel. But this is still new to me, right? This is still new. I'm still growing. I'm still trying to understand algorithm. I'm still trying to understand this platform on this side, right? As the content creator and not as the consumer, so to speak, or the person just trying to learn. I'm trying to share information, trying to give information, and trying to help you guys in your journeys and your paths, whatever that may be. And I hope that the information I share with you, my story, my testimony, will be of assistance to you. Because that's all I'm trying to do, is be of assistance to you and help you cut the learning curve. So if you don't know about me, if you haven't seen my other videos, basically, I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. I was kicked out around 18. I came back into that organization for a couple of years and got kicked out again. I never returned back. I made certain career decisions that went against their parameters of being, went against their rules. So because of that, I just never returned. And my life has been better without that influence. And I just talk about it on this channel. I just try to make it as personable as possible, as real as possible, and try to give you guys an outlook. So if you guys are, religious or you're not religious, it may or may not interest you. If you guys are interested in, going into law enforcement or you're already in law enforcement, this information may interest you. If you're in the military or thinking about switching branches or just joining the military for the first time, this channel may assist you. It may give you some insight along with other people's channels. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else. I'm just giving my experience. That's all I can do, right? But this video in particular, I want to talk about the mindset of a correctional officer, right? I've talked about the military. I've talked about the mindset from law enforcement to military. I talked about the mindset from leaving Jehovah's Witnesses to law enforcement. But I really want to talk about the mindset of going into the prison for the first time or the jail for the first time. The kind of idea of what's going on. I'm going to give y'all the kind of insight for those of you that want to make a career path, or even if you're just attempting to try it out to see if you would like it. This video is for y'all. This video is for y'all. I kind of want y'all to know what y'all getting into. I know I touched on it with other videos, so if you haven't seen my other videos from going from a JW to law enforcement, check that out. Or law enforcement to military, please check that out. Please like and subscribe, like I said before. And if you like those videos, like I said, please put a like and please share them, because you may help somebody, right? For me, for a long time, I knew that I wanted to get in law enforcement. It was more so be a cop. It wasn't really with the state trooper thing. I wanted to be a cop. I wanted to be a detective eventually. I want to be in the mix, in the trenches, in the streets. And I had an uncle that was NYPD, became detective. I had other family members that was NYPD. And I didn't want to necessarily be NYPD, but I did want to be a cop. And coming from my background as a Jehovah's Witness, that was kind of frowned upon. And I spoke about that in another video. So I knew that in the congregation I was in, there was ex-correctional officers that worked at Rikers Island and other different places, and they were still kind of frowned upon, but because most correctional officers don't carry a gun for their job duty, it was not seen as bad, right? So I was leaning more towards that. One, because of the religion, and if I decided to come back to the religion after I left, if I decided to come back, I knew that it would be easier for me to come back because I didn't carry a gun all the time. As a cop, that's what you do. As a correctional officer, depending on your post, you may never touch a gun for your career, right? So that played an important role of why I chose corrections over police. There's pros and cons to both. As a cop, you're out in the elements. As a correctional officer, you're inside. Depending on where you're at, what institution you're at, when it's hot outside, you got the AC. When it's cold outside, you got the heat. Some institutions don't have good AC. Some institutions just have fans. So it's hot, just blowing around hot air. So, the dynamic of where you're at plays a huge part. If you work in the feds, you're working with the state, you're with the county, different places have different funding. You know what I'm saying? The South doesn't have the same kind of funding that the North has when it comes to institutions. So, and the feds are different from the state, right? So that all plays a big part. When I started my career, I started at the state facility, and some buildings on that camp had AC. The initial building I was assigned to did, but then I've worked buildings helping out in other parts of the prison that didn't. They just had big industrial fans, and it was not fun. It was not fun. If it's 90 degrees outside, it's about 105 degrees, 110 degrees in there. And I'm just being honest with you guys. So with that being said, be careful where you decide that you want to work at. That might be a question that you may want to ask in an interview. How's the AC? Especially if you're in a hot climate. If you're in a cold climate, how's the heat? Some dorms may not have good heat like that. They may have portable heaters. What level of custody do you want to work at? You can find those kind of things out. Or the custody level, you can kind of find out before you want to interview. You can Google different prisons and see what the custody level is. It will say it online. But that plays a part. Some people say, look, I can do corrections, but I'm only want to do minimum. I can do corrections, but I only, they don't even want to deal with, or they don't want to deal with minimum. They want the bad guys. They want the tough, the killers. Some people want to deal with guys like crimes. When you're a correctional officer, you're a correctional officer. It's just like if you're a cop, you're a cop. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, a cop could say, I don't want to work for this county. I work for this county. I don't want to work for this city. I work for this city. I know in the Philly area, a lot of cops don't want to work in Philly. They rather work in like Lower Marion, Upper Marion, If you're familiar with that area, or same thing with like New York, they may not want to work NYPD, but they'll work Suffolk County or Nassau County. So I still want to be a cop. I still want to have that power, but I don't want to be in a tough area. I get it on both sides of the spectrum. I get it that you want to be safe and you want to go home to your family, but I get it also, you also made an oath, you know what I'm saying, to protect the people. You know what I'm saying? So wherever that may be, that's your job, protect the people. You know what I'm saying? So I get it, but at the same time, it's like, if that's what you want to do, it shouldn't matter where there's people everywhere. And you got to protect people. In the military, I don't say I just want to protect people on the East Coast because I'm from the East Coast, or I want to just protect people from the West Coast or whatever. I made an oath to protect the country. You know what I mean? I made an oath to protect the Constitution. That includes everybody in the 50 states. Doesn't make a difference if they're from the hood or, they're from the Hamptons. You know what I mean? From Silicon Valley to South Beach to wherever, South Bronx. You know what I mean? So when you choose this career path, whether it be a cop or whether it be a corrections, understand that if you're a CO, you're a CO. It shouldn't make a difference what prison you work at, honestly. You should just want to do the job. With that being said, I suggest everybody go to a tougher place first. And the reason why I say that is because if you can handle, medium, if you can handle maximum, when you get to minimum, it's easy. You know what I'm saying? You're so used to dealing with hardened criminals, you're so used to with violent people, that when you got somebody that says, Mr. Smith or, Mrs. James or whatever your name is, Officer so-and-so, Officer, Kevin or Officer Sally or whatever the case may be, you're just not used to it. You're used to somebody cursing you out, threatening you. Now you deal with the minimum. It's easy. You know what I'm saying? They take care of everything they need to take care of. It's very little things that you have to actually do. Maybe turn a couple keys here and there. But I feel like every officer should start off like at least a medium to maximum. If you start off a maximum, you can handle anything. You know what I mean? You can handle anything. Everything else is easy from there. When I started off in corrections, I started off at a closed facility as medium closed, which means we had some open dorms, but we also had some secure dorms. We had anywhere from medium to high max. High max custody, we had intensive control custody, we had maximum control custody. We had all of that. You know what I mean? I've worked every unit. I've worked open dorms with just, very light sentenced people about to get out to, people that got life. You know what I mean? I've worked every level. I've seen every level. I've conversed with every level. So understand, when you become a CO, this is the stuff you want to deal with. These are the people that you sign up to also protect from each other. So have that mindset. Don't have the mindset as, I'm gonna get a check. You will. It's a steady check, that is true, but at the same time, it's very important that you understand you're protecting not just the people on the outside that don't ever see these people. You're also protecting the people on the inside. You know what I mean? From each other, from being stabbed, from being, assaulted in that way, from being raped or assaulted in that way. You know what I'm saying? You have a job to do. Also protecting other staff. You know what I'm saying? You have a duty to protect your fellow brother or sister, behind that wall or behind that gate. So you have a duty to the community, you got a duty to the inmates, you got a duty to the staff, and you got a duty to yourself to make it home safely. So having that mindset going in is very important. Is it easy? You make it what you want to make it. Some people think that doing nothing makes it easy. I was never that kind of officer. You know what I'm saying? There were certain units that were easier than others. Once you establish where you stand, the groundworks, you regulate for a couple of weeks, especially if that's not your assigned unit. But if it is your assigned unit, you regulate. That makes you know how you move, how you operate. And then it's easy. You know what I'm saying? It kind of runs itself. If you decide that you're going to be a person that is super tough on the inmates, depending on the type of inmates you're dealing with, it could be easy because they're so nervous about when they come out for rec that they really don't want to interact with you. So they'll stay out your way, they stay quiet, whatever the case may be. So in a way that could be easy, but also, it could backfire. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're so strict when they do something, and you have an inmate that doesn't really care about the rules, because they're in there for not caring about the rules anyway, the laws anyway, it may backfire. Everything you do, they may try to put you on paper, saying you're a tyrant, and then you start getting investigated. So you gotta have a happy medium. You gotta have a nice balance. You understand? And go in with the mindset of open mindset, but a firm mindset. Understand that these guys or females could be in there for a long time. Understand that they've had a history of dealing with law enforcement. Understand that you ain't the first or probably the last correctional officer that they're gonna deal with. So you have to keep in mind that, these guys are in there day in and day out. They don't get out for their birthday. They don't get out for Mother's Day. They don't get out for Father's Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween, New Year's. They're in there every holiday, every birthday. You know what I'm saying? And if a judge says, hey, you got 60 months, that's 5 birthdays, 5 Christmases, you know what I'm saying? It's 5 years. You know what I mean? So, or they may say 120 months, that's 10 years. They usually go by months, when they get their sentence. And that's what the inmates go by. They say, I got 100 months left. I got 42 months left. It don't sound as bad as, I got 4.5 years left, 3 years left. You know what I mean? It don't sound as bad, but it is what it is. But yeah, just keep that in mind, man. Like, you don't have to go in there being a really badass. You don't have to go and be the toughest guy out there. You don't have to go try to put up 350, 400 on the bench and then, try to act super tough going in there. Be who you are. If you're a firm type dude, if you're a no mess type person or a female, be that. Eventually, they're going to sense that's your character, and they're just going to either leave you alone or they're going to just respect you. If you're a goofball, you might want to tighten up on that a little bit, but don't try to be somebody you're not, because there are going to be times or things that happen within your day, within your career, and the real character, the real you is going to pop out. And they're going to be like, where'd that come from? And they're going to be questioning you, and it's not going to be good. So if you're a goofball, there's times once you regulate and set your standards that you can kind of, crack a joke here and there. I'm not saying I haven't cracked a joke with inmates. I have. You know what I mean? They're people too. They want to be around, whether you're firm or whether you're, little laid back. They just want fair treatment at the end of the day. I've had inmates tell me, like, I'd rather have somebody that's strict all the time than somebody that's strict one day and then is and the next day they just playing games, or they're cracking jokes, or they're just wishy-washy. If you're gonna be firm, stay firm. And that's why I say be who you are. Because if you're a firm type of individual, that's your character, it's gonna be easy to do your job because you're just being you. If you're more laid back, be laid back. Set your standards. Hey, this is what I expect. And I can turn up, but this is what I expect. If y'all can do this on a daily basis, we good. If you can tote this line on a daily basis, we good, whatever your rules are. You know what I'm saying? It's very important to establish that the first day you get in there, whether you're new or not. Don't say, well, I'm new, they're not gonna respect me. Make them respect you. You know what I'm saying? Set the tone. Every time I came into a new block, even though I was a little fearful, I tried to show no fear, right? I introduced myself. I'm Officer Horn. I'm gonna be a block officer or pod officer for the rest of this evening. This is my rules. This is what I expect. And this is what you can expect from me. If you stay within these parameters, we'll have a good night. If you decide to do otherwise, we'll have a different type of night. Choice up to you, gentlemen, what you want to do. I'll be around twice, depending on the jail. I might have to make 1 round an hour or 2 rounds an hour. I'll be around 1 time an hour, 2 times an hour. If you have a question at the time, you can approach me. I'm very approachable. If at a certain time it's time for feed or whatever the case may be, hold all questions, any questions, anything like that, any paperwork that you need to give me, do not give me at that time. I will not accept it at that time. I will feed at that time, and after I finish feeding and click my trays, we can have a conversation. Whatever the setup was, you know what I mean? If I'm locking you up or locking you down, Don't ask no questions. I'm giving you the warning now. This is what I expect. If I lock you down, this is because you broke one of my rules. And this is how it goes. Boom. You break the rule, this is what I do. You break another rule, this is what I do. Second time or third time, I put you on paper. This is how I operate. It's nothing personal, it's just business. You know what I'm saying? So I would set my tone. As soon as I got into the unit, I put my paperwork, depending on the jail I was working at the time, I worked at like 4 different facilities, put my paperwork aside, check my count, go do a round, check on everybody good, you breathing, all right, we cool. I'm gonna let y'all out a little bit, some things I need to say first, and that's something I would say before I would let them out. Because most times when you switch shifts, they're locked down, most times. And then you let them out. But before you let them out, everybody needs to know what you expect. You know what I mean? So if they cross that line, because some will cross it on purpose. Some will take a little heat on purpose to see if you're really about it. See if you're really a man of your word or woman of your word. They will try you. I don't care how big you are. I don't care how much experience you have. If you're new to that facility, they will try you and see if you're a man of your word. If you say you're going to put them on paper because they do something, you put they behind on paper. They're going to try to cop a plea. Oh, I didn't know. I didn't hear you. And I didn't. Well, hear this and see this. Mr. So-and-so or, Mr. So-and-so, this is your paperwork, this is your copy. And whatever the case may be, whatever rule they broke that you put in play. So always remember that. Understand who your supervisors are. All right. I'm going to end on this note with the supervisors because I don't want to... My videos tend to be lengthy. I love talking to y'all. But know who your supervisors are. Understand that some supervisors do not want to do their job. And some supervisors love to do their job a little too much. So when you're working, understand the unit you're on, right? Understand the inmates that are in play, who's, I don't want to say running the unit, but who helps keep the unit in order. Usually it's an older inmate or a bigger inmate or a high-ranking gang member that usually kind of keeps the order, right? Figure out who they are. Figure out, where they come into play, because that person usually is a big helper to you. And when it comes to your supervisors, understand who's running your side of the jail, your side of the prison, your floor of the jail, the prison that evening, or that morning, or that day. That's extremely important because a bad supervisor can make your day, or week, or month, or your rotation horrible, and a good supervisor can make your day or your night great. Honestly. So find out who you're working with. What's their rotation? Find out what their pet peeves are. Because something may be your pet peeve, but it's not their pet peeve. So when you put that person on paper, that inmate on paper, they can be like, man, don't put them on paper for that. So now it comes back to you and bites you in the what, because they're not gonna support you in that. You want support. So you need to know who your supervisors are. You need to know, hey, what do you like, what you don't like? What do you don't want to see on a unit? What do you do want to see on a unit? Or what do you allow to see on a unit? Okay, yeah, and some supervisors are good. They'll say, whatever you want is your unit, I'm going to support you. That's a good supervisor. You have some supervisors like, hey, I don't care about this, I don't care about that. They don't care, they just clicking the check. With somebody like that, sometimes you got to make they behind work. I've had supervisors like that, and there's certain things that inmates would do that I would kind of let slide, but when it was something heavy, I would make a list of stuff that the inmates did. I may not hit them on that day. I might hit them a couple days later, but I would make a list with certain inmates that really kept pushing the buttons, and then I bring it to my supervisor that ain't worth a damn, and by the time I bring them the list and the date and the time, they got to do their job. Because if they don't, now I'm going to their supervisors. If I had a sergeant, I'm going to lieutenant, like, hey, lieutenant, I went to the sarge. This inmate did 6, 7, 8 different infractions on this date, this time. Look at the camera. I didn't want to make it a big deal. I brought it to the supervisor's attention. They didn't want to do nothing about it, but now it's causing a problem. Now it's causing an unsafe environment within the facility or within the pod, or whatever the case may be. So sometimes with certain supervisors, you got to document. You should document anyway, right? Always have a notebook on you, a pen on you, and document. If you have a phone in your unit, you can talk to your supervisor, talk to your sergeant, lieutenant. Document the date and time you talk to them. Document what they said and what you said, in case they try to hem you up for something. They may try to hem you up for something because they don't care for you or whatever the case may be. So it's very important to document. everything. Sometimes encounters with inmates, encounters with staff, encounters with upper staff. Depending on where you're working, you might have to deal with the public a little bit. If something happened with the public, document that. You might have to take an inmate out to the hospital and a nurse says something crazy to the inmate or says something crazy to you or doctor, document that. Documentation is your best friend in law enforcement, because there's always a he say, she say. It's always somebody trying to get a buck. You know what I'm saying? Lawsuits are prevalent in that field. And a lot of cops are wearing body cams, and a lot of prisons we don't, and jails we don't. Some jails, especially down south, if you're a jail deputy or a street deputy or both, sometimes they rotate street to jail, street to jail. They may have a body cam, but majority of the prisons and jails in the U.S. do not have body cams. We don't have body cams. So it's he say, she say. So it's very important to document. Even when you document, people could still kind of take things off context, but at least you have something. That's one thing my grandfather did. He told me, like, when you get in this field, document. Whether it's good or bad, document your day, especially if it's bad, especially if something happened, somebody got hurt, staff got hurt, inmate got hurt, document. If you were there, document. You know what I mean? Have a hard copy for yourself. You know what I'm saying? If something happens, use of force happens, and they tell you, hey, you don't have to do a report, you really weren't active in it, I would do a report anyway, or at least do a report in your notepad. Always want to cover yourself. CYA. Y'all know what that means. Cover your, you know what. Cover yourself. Like I said, it's a society that likes to sue. Sue happy, sue crazy. So you always want to protect yourself, protect your job. In essence, that protects your family, right? You don't want somebody to do something or say something, you did something, and now they coming for your house. Now they coming for your savings, your 401k, because they said you did something or you did do something and it wasn't documented correctly, but you have the right documentation to protect yourself, right? Because there are times where they train you and then something happens, and there's prisons that have left people out to dry. You know what I'm saying? And it's not a good day. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that even when you document, it can't happen, but if you can kind of lessen the chances, that's the key, right? That's the key. You want to lessen those chances as much as possible, because the more you obtain to your life and your career, you might buy houses, you might buy cars and boats and all kinds of different investments. You want to protect it, and that's one way of protecting it is having documentation. All right, so I just want to share that with y'all. I want to give you a little bit of insight about being a CEO, the mindset. Have a honest mind, have some good morals. Don't think you're gonna change the world. Don't think you're gonna change one inmate at a time. You're there to do a job, right? You're there to do the job. Do it professionally, right? Do it professionally. I'm not saying be super kind to them. I'm not saying, treat them like, you work at, Ruth Chris Grill and they're customers trying to buy a ribeye steak or something like that. I'm not saying that, but treat them like human beings. You know what I'm saying? Treat them like human beings. Treat them with some respect. Give them that same energy they give you. And that's another thing. Don't overly give them respect when they're not showing you respect. Match their energy, and when they act a certain way or they say, I'm giving you the same energy you give me. When you change your energy, I'm gonna change my energy. You know what I mean? So keep that in mind. I'll probably have another video out like this. Help you out with your mindset going in. Or if you're a new correctional officer and you're just trying to figure things out, it takes some time. You know what I'm saying? The last prison I worked at was a federal prison in PA, and I was there between 3 and 6 months, and inmates, they all across the yard, hey, Horn, they knew my name, and people that have been there 10, 15 years were like, how are you so comfortable? How are they so comfortable with you so quickly? It's not my first rodeo. You know what I mean? I treat them how I want to be treated. You know what I'm saying? Don't lie to me. Don't play with me. You play with me, I'm going to play with you back. You know what I'm saying? And that's the energy I gave them. You know what I mean? I didn't treat them like crap just because they're an inmate. I didn't, go through their cell and rummage through their stuff and, talk, a whole lot of junk to them, curse them out. If you want to be an a-hole with me, I'm going to be an a-hole with you. If you want to show me respect, I'm gonna show you respect, Mr. So and so, so and so, so and so, Mr. So and so, Mrs. So and so. You know what I'm saying? And I got it back. You know, I've never been stabbed. I had a couple scratches from tussling guys through the years, but nothing crazy. I never, lost any of my ability in my hands, my fingers, my toes. Like I said, never been stabbed, never been cut, never been poked. You know what I mean? I've had dudes, acting, swing on me and stuff like that, and it was a bad day for them. That's all I'm gonna say. But I had a mindset going in that I didn't bring home to work, and I didn't bring work to home. And that's what a lot of SEALs or officers have a problem with. So if you can keep those things separate, if you can take some of the things that I share with you to help you out with your career and pushing you forward as a correctional officer or detention officer, or even use some of the things I say, if you're going to be a cop, I hope it all works out for you. It's always love, it's always respect all the time, and I'll see you at the top. One love.